So, I think let's get started. Good afternoon to everybody. Pleasure for me to be here. I thought I could stand up, but here it's hotter than here, obviously. And I thought since this is a small group, I can afford to remain seated. Now, as agreed with Antonio Muniz, we have 2 days or 2 afternoons seminar on technology assessment, on the various approaches, concepts that we in our context of the Center for Science, Technology, Policy Studies, STEPS at the University of Twente consider to be relevant. I wanted to share that with you. And for that purpose, I've prepared 3 presentations, 3 kind of lectures. But I wanted to precede these lectures with a short introduction of myself and of our department to better understand the context within which we are doing this. So I have first this relatively short introduction, and then we can have a short break and then continue with the first longer lecture. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here because I think it's very important that you have this program, this PhD program, that Antonio partly has already introduced to me, and we have even more than that. We have agreed a collaboration between the faculty here at the university and my faculty along issues, themes of technology assessment, science, technology, innovation studies, and wanted to have in the future more exchange of teachers, but also of PhD candidates. It depends. Given the fact that these groups like yours and also ours, with PhD students, are not too big, we can arrange things quite on individual case base. That depends what have to be discussed. Now, first, a few words about myself. A long time ago, I studied history and political science at the University of Marburg in Germany. And later I went to the University of Kassel, also in Germany, where I did in 1986 my PhD on processes of informatization of public administration. That means the use of computer technology in public administrations from a social science perspective, from a political science perspective. And a couple of years later, please come in, hello. I did also this strange thing that they have in Germany still, that is the habilitation, which is the second doctorate that you, at least in the past, needed to do if you wanted to become a full professor at the university. Nowadays it's no longer really obligatory, but still advisable to do it in the German and German-speaking context. Anyway, I did that, as you see, in 1998. That means a couple of years, more than 10 years after my first PhD. And that has to do with the fact that I've been working in various contexts. First, I have been working as a researcher in a research group dealing with informatization of public administration at the University of Kassel for almost 9 years or so, till 1988. And in 88, then I went to the Fraunhofer Institute for Systems and Innovation Research, ISI, in Kassel, in Germany. There I stayed too long, I should say, 18 years. I wanted to be there only 5 years, but for a number of reasons I stayed there quite long. Where I started as a researcher, but a few years later they made me head of the research department, and later made me deputy director of the institute, and later even acting director of the institute. So I took more and more responsibility, and I did from that institute, as an external candidate, my habilitation at the University of Kassel. Therefore, it was far later than my PhD. And all these days, at the University of Kassel, I've been dealing with aspects of technology assessment quite clearly. In public administration, in the field of information communication technology. In the Fraunhofer Institute in ISI, later on, I've focused my studies on areas of technology policy, innovation policy, governance of technology, governance of innovation. So it was less on explicit TA, technology assessment. In 2001, then the University of Utrecht in the Netherlands asked me to join them as a professor of innovation policy analysis. I went there parallel to my position at the Fraunhofer Institute, so I was commuting between Germany and the Netherlands for a couple of years. And then in 2006, the University of Twente offered me a full chair of Foundations of Science, Technology and Society, which is a quite long-standing chair. My predecessor was Ari Rib. He's still around, and we are quite happy with that. Quite active figure in technology assessment and related studies. And I liked a lot to go there, because that was in a way combining my earlier work in the 1980s and the work that I'm doing now. So there I tried to combine, to concentrate on processes of shaping innovation, technological development and innovation from a governance perspective. So in other words, my interest is now in how to introduce the perspective of governance into technology assessment. Yeah. Now that's in short what I've been doing. For the rest, you can approach our website and you see many more things that I don't want to bother you with now. A few words about our department. The STEPS department or center. It focuses on the assessment and the governance of innovations and emerging technologies in particular, emerging new technologies, but also on innovations and governance. So there is a double perspective in a way represented here. I will return to that in a minute. And we do that from a multidisciplinary perspective on science, technology, politics, society. And it's important to mention here that we also claim not only to be analytical, of course we are analytical, but also to be to some extent normative. That means to have a decisive impact on what happens with the development of science, technology and innovation. For this we try to develop tools for scientists, for engineers, for governance or government and governance agencies of all types. Both hands-on tools but also conceptual tools. And of course we want to contribute to theory building in our field, and that has happened in many respects so far. Again, if you study our website you will see what that includes. But basically the work is organized along three major themes. The first is on policies in the broadest sense for science, for innovation, governance issues in a particular sense. That's more or less also my area. The second is on technology dynamics and technology assessment, an area which I also cover, but other colleagues as well. So there we try to analyze the dynamics of technological development and try to develop approaches, measures, tools to assess and to shape socio-technical change. And you see also the overlap. The more you want to shape, the more you need to know about governance, so that it's of course interlinked. And we afford to have a third theme, that is the theme looking into the long-term developments of science, technology and society. Also not only into the future but also into the past. And that's very interesting. So we have historians, a couple of historians in our department, studying both scientific developments and technological innovation developments in the preceding centuries. For instance, one colleague is dealing with the emergence of modern mathematics in the Netherlands in the 17th and 18th century. It's a very interesting thing about institution building, about new governance. It's not only about science in a narrow sense, but also about new ways of organizing science in universities, for instance. So, or another colleague has been studying innovation processes and technological development processes in the 19th century. It's very interesting to see, for instance, that the very well-known Mode 2 of science, technology, innovation, Gibbons and Novotny and others have written about that some 20 years ago, that this kind of interactive linkages between scientific development, engineering, and governance initiatives has been present already in the 19th century. And the idea of distinct areas of science, technology, innovation that was considered to be the old model in the 1980s was actually a state of development that was in a way present in the 1950s and 60s. That's true. But if you go further back into history, you see that that's what we consider to be very postmodern nowadays was already present. Now that's what our historians find out, and I like that very, very much. As you see, we are about 30 people staff. Depends how you count people, whether you count full-time or part-time people, and people who are external PhD students, PhD students or internal. In any case, there are 4 chairs, full professoriate chairs, and 3 extraordinary chairs, and a couple of associate professorships, assistant professorships, and the like, and about 10 PhD students right now. I see a parallel to what you are doing here, and based on the fact that recently the University of Twente, which is a technically oriented university with a strong social science base as well, in that respect comparable to some extent to this university here. This University of Twente has established last year a graduate school that is focusing on master and PhD education as a cross-cutting instrument of the university, and has established a number of thematic programs within this graduate school. And we have been earlier this year in February awarded one of those programs, the program Governance of Knowledge and Innovation, and I had to be the director of that program. We are still building it up, but I think in a way it parallels what you are doing here with your TA PhD program. It's run by my department, the STEPS department, and a neighboring department that is a group that is the Center for Higher Education Policy Studies, a center that, as the name says, focuses on the role of universities of higher education from a social science and governance perspective. So there's overlap with what we are doing. We together are running this program. Try to educate top scientists, try to integrate a research master education and PhD programs, and thereby we also try to attract both master students and PhD students from all over the world. That's at least the intention. So far we have a couple of international students in our program, but not too many yet. As I said, we started only a couple of months ago. Therefore, a few words on this graduate school. We combine the 3 lines that I mentioned already, that in science innovation policies, technology dynamics and assessment, long-term development and history, and the 4th one coming from the other department, from the CHEPS, Science for Higher Education Policy Studies department, here higher education, the knowledge society. These 4 programs, these 4 knowledge areas, themes are covered by the program of the graduate school. And you see here the participating chairs, myself, Professor Jürgen Enders, Professor Nelly Outson, Professor Rob Popper, and Professor Lisa Roberts are the ones who are running this program. We try to apply there a multi-level approach, multi-actor approach on the thematic areas that I mentioned already. And constructive technology assessment, a notion that I will return to later in the presentation, is an important subset of that. The multi-level perspective that I also will return to is an important aspect to that. Strategic niche management is another concept that we have has been developed in our field. And the CHEPS colleagues, they contribute concepts dealing with the supervisory role and the evaluative role of the state, stakeholder governance, network governance, and theories of the transformation of universities. Now, this is some PR about the program, but no need to discuss that further. In any case, if you are interested or if you know students, let me know. We can develop them further links. And I can also imagine that this program in our graduate school might more systematically link up with what you are doing in terms of exchange and so on. We'll see. Just one last point on what we are doing. I am right now establishing, or in other words, other way around. We have been participating for many years in the European Network of Excellence PRIME, Policies for Research and Innovation, on the move towards the European Research Area, PRIME, which is a network of labs, of groups in our field of studies into the governance of innovation and technology. This EU-funded network has expired, does no longer exist, but it was quite a successful experience. We had PhD schools organized there between our members. We had large conferences that were quite successful and a number of interesting explorative research projects. So we thought we should establish something that disposes some of the key functions of such a network of excellence, but at the same time being lighter, because we don't have the money that the European Commission has offered us for the previous years. So we are now in the process of establishing an association, a voluntary association of institutes in Europe in our field. The USPRI Forum, you see it up there, and that is the European Forum for Studies into Policies for Research and Innovation. On the 8th of June, we will have a meeting in Paris where we'll be also formally, legally establish this forum. The members will pay a fee into a joint pot, out of which we then can finance, or at least co-finance, PhD summer schools, conferences for our PhD students, annual or biannual larger scientific conference and things like that. I'm mentioning that because the first biannual international conference will be organized by ourselves at our university. That's this one here. It is about tentative governance in emerging science and technology, we call it. And we look there after actor constellations, institutional arrangements and strategies around emerging science and technology. That means life sciences and technologies, nanotechnologies and the like. I think it will be quite an interesting event. We have had some 130 paper submissions, out of which some 80, 90 will be invited in a few weeks. And hopefully also then this platform that I mentioned will become more visible, and we will in the future have similar activities elsewhere. So if you are interested, you find this website here, the link. It is not readable. Anyway, you find it on our website. Anyway, so this is what I very briefly wanted to present to you as just by way of introduction of myself and my context. And here I should stop with this. But if you have any questions, please let me know.
Well, I don't know if there are any questions. Of course, Fabia will not present questions in order to know a little bit more, but because I visited you and the university. But you mentioned that Twente is technically based university, technical university. It appeared mostly in this to to provide high education in technical fields. But the region where is university has a traditional industry behind, in which sectors, because Eindhoven had this textile and the electronics fields. Leiden, I don't know in which field it is, but there is also a technical.
Delft is a technical. Leiden is a classical university.
Yeah, Delft is more in the computer science.
Yes.
It seems.
Infrastructures.
But Twente is.
Twente has nowadays a focus in terms of technological focus in the field of material sciences, nanoscience and technology, life sciences, and in medicine in particular, health oriented. Yeah. Yes, no, that's this middle size, but there's a growing focus on health related technologies. So material sciences, nanoscience technology, health related technologies, ICT as well. And as I said, there's a long tradition in this relatively young university, which was established in the 1960s, of having also social sciences next to the technical and natural science faculty, and also quite some collaboration. Recently, the university has decided to redesign the corporate design of the university. Now, we like to call ourselves a university focusing on technology in context. The context is then the social context, the societal context, the context of application, of course, as well. So we are the context, and they do the technology. Yes, but you asked for the environment, the industrial environment, technological environment. Now, the area of Twente is in the east of the Netherlands. That used to be on the one hand an agricultural area, and on the other hand, since about 150 years, it used to have a quite strong textile industry, which went down in the 1980s of last century, and since then is only present in has been remaining only in few selected areas of high-end, high-tech textiles. Those do still exist, but the majority of the industry has disappeared. But not at least as a result of the establishment of the university as a technical university since 1960s, particularly since the 1980s. Technology-based entrepreneurs have established interesting companies, number of which have in the meantime grown. Though increasingly the area, this old textile industries and agricultural area of Twente is turning into a technology-oriented industrial area. And the university is quite proud to be an important element of this development, and it is in the meantime embedded in a kind of a business park around the university. So that's remarkable, and that has also partly to do, I think, with the position at the Dutch-German border, because the companies are internationally oriented, also into Germany. Students come from Germany into the Netherlands. But not only from Germany, of course, but that's quite close. It's easy to approach the university.
Yes, you do some comparable analysis if it's necessary for some cases, or just to follow up some seminars in the other country.
Yes. And I haven't talked into too much detail about the thematic areas covered by our own research. But having heard about the thematic scope of some of your PhD thesis, I should probably have mentioned that in the field of technology assessment and technology dynamics analysis, health-related technological developments are an important subset of, for instance, my colleague Professor Nelly Outzhorn is doing, just to name one, within our department. Beyond our department, there are also other people focusing on TA and health-related technological development. So there's quite a number of people that might be interesting in that respect. Others focus on TA or technological development in the field of nano. But what Trent is doing in the field of nano is more and more going into the direction of what they call nanobiotechnology. And that's then, again, linking up with life sciences and health-related areas.
This will be, well, we don't have no one here in the field of nanotechnology in the PhD program, but this faculty is one of the strongest research groups in nanotechnology.
Okay.
In Portugal.
Yeah.
And they are partners with 2 other universities in Iberian Institute for Nanotechnology in Braga.
Yeah.
And, well, from there it can start also some possibility, because it's very difficult for social scientists to get some knowledge about what is nanotechnology and further on to find some interesting topics to go into this field and to do it cooperatively with RFI, that's your research team. But this can be some steps further for the next years.
Okay. I also did not mention the fact that the university is built in a way, the University of Twente, in a way that it has, on the one hand, faculties, and on the other hand, institutes. And they relate to each other like a matrix. So we ourselves, are at the same time member of the faculty, and we are researchers in an institute. But the institutes are cutting across the faculties, and so, because they are thematically differently organized. So most of the research that we are doing is located in the Institute of Innovation and Governance Studies. That is the one you saw here. You saw here, up there, the green field there. But that's where I'm also participating. I'm running a program in that institute. But at the same time, we are participating in the Nano Institute of the university. That's the so-called MESA Institute. MESA Plus is the name of the Nano Institute. It's quite a big one of the biggest nano labs in the world, I should say. It's really incredible. And they have a research theme. They call it a strategic research orientation on technology assessment and risk analysis. And in that we are participating as a department as well. And right now we are in the process of implementing a new research program funded by Dutch authorities on risk analysis and technology assessment in the field of nanotechnology, with a couple of PhD projects, postdoc projects, and the like, embedded in this institute, this MESA Plus Institute, but stretching into our department. So some of our colleagues are doing their work there. They are paid in that context. We will hire, hopefully, in the next few months, new PhD students in that field into our group. So there's also collaboration with other institutes in the university. There are 5 institutes, 6 institutes now in the meantime. But that is part of our identity in a way, that we working on, from a social science perspective, on the development of technology, shaping of technologies. We have to collaborate with technology-oriented institutes, so we are part of them. That's the idea. But only part of them. At the same time, we are also independent. That's also very important. So not to become too dependent on them. That's a quite, for external people, sometimes difficult to understand relationship between the departments of the faculty on the one hand and the institutes on the other hand, because, as I said, it is intermingled in a way. Okay. Should we have a short break, or should I continue with the... next presentation. Depends.
Depends on you.
No? I think I should do it now. Otherwise it will be too late. Now, this first lecture is supposed to present to you some basic ideas that we use in our research on how we understand technological development and innovation processes as social processes. So not as technology development as such, in the sense of what the engineers do or what the scientists do in the lab from their perspective, but as social processes. So, but also put it in other words, the engineer or the scientist as a social actor. That's not the way normally scientists and engineers understand themselves, look at themselves. They are experts, of course, in their field, and as experts they act. Okay, we try to observe them, to understand them, and their motifs, and from there then also to be able to, we hope to be able to show them the room within which they behave, they act, they take decisions, and thereby we hope to be able to increase the level of reflexivity of what happens in these processes. That's the basic idea. But since I do not know, or did not know when I prepared this, what your individual backgrounds are of studies, of knowledge, I thought I should dare to start with the basics. So I hope I don't bore you. Let me know if it's things that you know have been known already for decades or so. I don't know. But yeah, please interrupt me. Also, I would like to ask you to interrupt me, and we should also be able to discuss in the small group. Should be discussion possible, of course. So, this is, what is this? A robot. It's an early, very early robot of the 1960s. It was named Shaky. We can still see it in the Stanford Research Institute, in a museum related to the Stanford Research Institute. If you click that link, you arrive at their website and you see where you would find that machine. Now, in those days, in the 1960s, robots were quite a promise and also a threat to many people. If you look at, for instance, science fiction literature of those days, robots were quite prominent. Quite many robots active and around, and yeah, of course people had far-reaching hopes with respect to what one can do with robots, but of course also all kinds of fears what robots might do with us. Although what actually this Shaky was able to do was very limited, really very limited. But you see that that's a basic thing already, that there is often, not always, but often a gap between what people expect of science and technology and what actually happens. So you have somewhere in between of the promises or the hopes around technologies and the artifacts like such a robot on the one hand, and the audience on the other hand. That's all of us in a way. There's the expert, the engineer, the one who is developing that stuff. And it's very interesting to see that on the one hand, often they are frustrated when expectations grow too high because they cannot fulfill them. But on the other hand, they often quite actively support these expectations because that helps also to generate attention, money, power, and so on. So they play with it in a way. Sometimes we become victims of the promises and expectations and failures, and sometimes they are able to cope with it. And if you take a closer look at people who are really very important in developing science and technology in recent decades, you see that those were people who were really able to play with promises and expectations and failures. That holds for Steve Jobs, for instance, from the Apple guy. It holds for successful directors of research institutes in growing fields like nanotechnology or so. They are able to attract lots of money because you're offering a hype theme. Everybody believes in nanotech, so let's go for it. And if you have something interesting to promise, then you generate a lot of money. But of course, the problem is that the subject area, the thing you're working with, is still, quoting my colleague Ari Rip, it is a monstrosity. Or he called that a hopeful monstrosity. Because you don't know what happens with it. You have lots of hopes, but it can also turn into bad things or frustrations or failures. I have here an example from Philips laboratories, but since the loudspeakers are too small, I'm afraid that you can't hear what I wanted to show you. It's going to give it a try. It's a video from Philips about a recent robot. Can't hear it, no? This iCat is presented, which is a robot, an interaction in a robot that communicates, that talks, that helps people to solve certain issues, problems, whatever it is. And what is shown here is how a girl plays games with the robot. And the important thing hereby is that not only the robot is able to discern some of the reactions of the human being, but also the other way around. You see the face that is trying to expose some human expression in a way, in order to facilitate the communication with the person. The robot is to some extent able to learn and to react to people's behavior. Perfect.
Socially positive direction style with emotional feedback is created through animated motion, lights, sounds, and speech dialogues.
You have a different one. No, sorry, it started later, that's the issue. But obviously your loudspeakers are better than mine. Anyway, it's probably tomorrow we have better sound than today. It's not that important. I can put this in the okay. It can be downloaded from Philips. They have it on their website.
Besides being a fun companion as a game,
Yep. The point is here simply that looks like a toy, or even ridiculous, you might say. You can call it again a hopeful monstrosity. It is actually supposed to be further developed, of course. This is just a preliminary artifact to be further developed for all kinds of care purposes. For instance, the idea is that these next steps of these kind of robots would be able to take care of elderly people, for instance, or of children, or of sick people, for instance. Help them to guide them through complex situations and so on and so forth. There's more of those. There's, for instance, also an iDog and so on. But just a few examples. There's many, as you know, many interesting developments in these areas. But my point here is that this tension does exist between promise and reality that can be covered with the notion of hopeful monstrosity. And the actual challenge is for people like us doing studies into science, technology, innovation, and social processes, to understand, as I said already in the beginning of this presentation, the leeway of action, the room of governance, the degree and also the limitations of being able to shape the processes between inherited knowledge, inherited technology that is already implemented in society, that we use. Look around this table, we all use our computers here. That's taken for granted for us, so it's already embedded into our social kind of social interaction very, very, very far, in a way that could not have been thought of 20 years ago or so. And we couldn't have, in those days, we wouldn't have been able to predict how it would have developed until now. So the challenge is to understand the possibilities, the options, the limitations, and to some extent at least grasp the social dynamics that are at play here. So we try to understand technological development as a process building on previous uses of technologies, of previous expectations, of previous investments that have been made on the one hand, but also on new dynamics that emerge out of social situations, economic situations, which only to a limited extent can be predicted. And we can ask ourselves, is this an independent dynamic, that we are just a victim of this independent dynamic, or is decision making in that context, actual purposeful interference into such process, is this just an illusion, or to which extent can be shaped? That's the open question. Take as an example the really tough fight that took place just a few years ago in the world of DVDs, HD DVDs, and the Blu-ray disc, between two big consortia that were for about 10 years or so investing heavily into these storage technologies. It was not only about the discs as such, but about the entire environment that is related to that, and also, in particular, of course, it was about the format in which content is stored, and thereby then also the question, what kind of entertainment, for instance, information that is available and related software that is available will be able to be sold, can be sold in future world markets. That was really a tough fight. And after having fought for so long time, invested for so long time, it turned out that in 2008, about 2 years ago, Toshiba had to withdraw from their HD DVD investment, and Blu-ray was the winner of the game. So behind this kind of dramatic, both economic, industrial, but also with respect to the potential social implications afterwards, social dynamic, behind that could there have been a systematic strategy of these companies, making them the winner of the situation? Hard to say. It's really hard to say. Of course they have tried this. Of course they have employed all kinds of counselors, of consultants, of I don't know what. But to some extent it seems to be random. To some extent, it still is to be analyzed, I would say. what the actual reasons were for why the one and not the other won this game. Obviously, it is not only about the technology. It was also, I mean, it can be seen as, can be discussed as a result of this DVD war. It was not just the entire environment behind it, organizational environment, economic environment, the cultural environment in terms of who has what kind of copyright of what kind of movies and the like. But all that was in the background. So what is technology? That's the next question. Yeah. It is these shakies and iCats, for sure, that's technology. It is a large system, the car, the motorway, the DVD, yes, sure. But is it also internet-based innovation systems, entertainment systems, sorry, of course also. And even tomatoes, as a tomato a technology? Of course you would say no, you can heat it up and that's no technology. But if you look what not only in the Netherlands, but also in other places in the world, happens with the production of tomatoes, and you see how these kind of wonderful ripe and red tomatoes are made, and there's a lot of technology behind it. And technology is then not only hardware, the greenhouses, the greenhouses, what have you there, but there's a lot of organization behind it. Is culture, it's knowledge, so it's an integrated structure and arrangement that makes up the technology. At least that's our understanding of technology. Or in other words, again quoting my colleague Ari Rip, he has phrased it as technology is a configuration that works. A configuration of artifacts and of people are at the same time, of course, embedded in institutions. And they are related to organizations and procedures. In institutions you have power. All this is in a way part of technology, in particular then, if you could, in the case that you can make the statement, it is a configuration that works. A configuration that does not work, where you have people, hardware, ideas, culture, but it doesn't work, then you wouldn't call that technology. Probably for some time you would call it a bad technology because you still have some hopes and expectations that it would function once in a while. Oh, sorry. But for the longer term you can't call that technology. So the configurations that work, that is what we are interested and want to better understand. Yeah, and for this you can develop all kinds of heuristics, ways to study these socio-technical arrangements and developments, and I just can offer you a few of them. There are many of them. For instance, just this one is very technically oriented concept, technical hierarchy, you can call it, looking at components, devices, standalone artifacts, and systems of all kinds. So meaning that a component is an individual piece that is built into a machine, but the individual thing as such cannot do a lot. But it is relevant. If you wouldn't have it, your machine wouldn't work. A device is an assemblage of different components and to some extent already able to function in a way. For instance, a pump, a loudspeaker or so. It's made up of different components and you can put it here and there and there and there. A standalone artifact is made up of components, devices into something that has a major function, like a car or a cell phone or so, or a camera or so. These are standalone artifacts. But most of these standalone artifact technologies or techniques normally, in particular modern times, would not work, not properly work, if they wouldn't be embedded in larger systems. For instance, the car is not really useful if you don't have streets, if you don't have fuel industries, oil drilling. If you wouldn't have that, You couldn't do a lot. You can sleep in your car, of course, and that, but so the use is very limited. The same holds for this computer. If you have run our internet nowadays, the way it is built nowadays, the use is very limited, and so forth. You can continue with many things. Most of our machines that we use need electricity, so you need a grid